Hello, everyone. I had a little bit of a rough morning. I was having gastrointestinal issues just from out of nowhere, quite painful. It was making me run to the bathroom. But anyway, I thought I was gonna sit around and be a bum all day and feel sorry for myself, I guess, or whatever. I was trying to figure out what part it was, where it was coming from, what was happening, and finally my part showed me, and when I realized the scenario that I was in, uh, anyway, I started to cry, I started to get really sad and go into despair. And as I was crying, I could hear my counselor, my voice saying, rage is what is underneath the sadness. So you got to go beat on Ted. So I made myself do that. I was very uncomfortable physically, in my abdomen. And anyway, so went out and did it and filmed it, and you'll see that. But remarkably, I was kind of blown away because it usually takes, maybe 2 or 4 or 6 hours before whatever physical ailment I has just kind of goes away. It was about 10 or 15 minutes later, I felt better. My outlook was, hey, oh my goodness, I need to post my videos today. I wanted to record a video today, which I thought surely there's no way, and I put it off. But once I was done with Ted and I felt better, all of my, short things I wanted to get done today came back and I felt good. And so here I am. I just spent the past hour and a half posting videos to the sites and renaming some files while I was waiting for that stuff to down or upload, and just feel better. I'm kind of blown away. I had a little light breakfast, some hard-boiled eggs and some cold bacon, and raring to go. So this is great. Highly recommend the TED Talk. It wasn't just about making me feel physically better, but my mindset changed. I feel cheerful again. And it's not switching from, the despair part into the daytime part and going amnesiac. It's just feeling better. So it's pretty awesome. So, but here I am, thought I would do my journal entry. So this is dated March 1st of 24. I remember one time when I was 3, I was crying either in or before a ritual. A man came and stood on my feet and told me to stop crying or he would continue to hurt my feet. I cried more because it hurt. He had boots on. He kept saying, push it down and swallow it or I'll continue. It hurt so bad. He continued as long as I cried. Eventually, I swallowed and swallowed my tears and stopped crying. He lifted my chin up to look at him and he said, now, isn't that better? I nodded. I limped away, swallowing my tears. It hurt badly. So, this is the same day and just a different topic on the journal. There was a time Angie, Mary, and I were in bed in a bedroom with grandma at Grandma Aver's house, my father's mother, and Angie and Mary are my sisters. We were about, I think, 4 or 5. She had put us in there with a Ouija board, wands, stones, and other witchcraft tools. It was almost an empty room. She told us to play with those things and closed the door. Mary grabbed the wand and walked about the room, waving it around, making up spells and things. Angie opened up and set up the Ouija board. Angie and I sat on the floor in front of it. I was about 4. I played with the stones. I put them on the board. As Angie put her hands on the piece that slides, and Mary was waving about the wand, the stones that I had put on the board began to wiggle and then move. They moved to form the word hell, oh, like hello, except it was hell and then a space with the O. Angie and I were stunned. She told me what it said. She called Mary to come look at it. When she did, a demon appeared and moved to be face to face with each of us in turn. It's like it just went on and went, and then went to the next person right in their face, and then all 3 of us. we reeled back. Mary waved at it with her wand. It then moved around us and then in wider circles, wider and wider circles around the room. Its movement made the curtains wave and move. Angie was scared. We all were. It made a whirlwind. Angie and I hugged each other. Mary stood looking. And I have a picture here. Let me share that. I'll show you the sketch that I made of it. And hopefully, where is it? Okay, this is my grandmother's house. This is the downstairs. This was their living room that was open to the upstairs. So, and oh no, this is the downstairs. Sorry. Kitchen, bedroom. This is where we were. And there was just a mattress on the floor that we were playing around in this room. And there was this demon just whirling and whirling and whirling and whirling around. So, and they had an interesting house because their den living room was very large. It was huge. And it had there was a second floor in the house, but not right here. This was open to, I should have put here the second floors or yeah, this is upstairs. You go upstairs and there's the office and bedroom and whatever. Mom and dad stayed there, grandma and grandpa, and that's an office or something. I don't remember what it was, but this was open and you could look down into the basement. And months later, I remembered a ritual that was done here. And I believe they had this house built this way so that they could do rituals like that. So let me stop share and get out of there. I yelled at it to go away. Jesus says you have to go away and leave us alone. I said it over and over. It left in a panic. Grandma burst into the room looking for it. She was confused why it was gone. Was it there? We nodded. Why was it gone? We shrugged. She was mad. I was afraid Angie and Mary would tell what I did, but they never did. I didn't know how I knew to do that. I think when I disassociated and sat and talked with God, He told me what to say. That was the room we slept in. It had only a large mattress where we all slept. Our suitcase and stuff she had us put in the closet and closed the door before she brought us her toys. She called them toys. They were witchcraft tools. I need to close something. There we go. When we opened the closet later, the suitcase was on its side and some of our stuff had been blown around. It was scary. And this was a type of a closet that it didn't have like an open and closing door. It was like a sliding door and it wasn't solid. It had like those slots, just like, and so air could fly through there. It was scary. After that, she had us get on our swimsuits and we walked to the lake to go swimming. Mom and dad came back from a trip with grandpa from somewhere. We didn't tell what happened. Another disjointed memory. I remember as a teen in Iowa that there was a mouse in the house. Mom, Angie, Mary, and I all jumped up onto the furniture. We all looked at each other. It was me who got down first to look for it and either catch it or scare it off. I remember Mom then helped me. I recall thinking about how it was me who could confront and handle the bad, scary stuff, this little mouse, and not them, and how odd I was the youngest. And that still stands to this day in 2024. And I don't know how I did this, but I went from March 1st entry and now to a February 9th of 2024. Night before my trip to Texas, I was going to visit Melissa, who runs the cuttingthroughthematrix.com website. And I was going to help her organize her house and stuff. And I was there for a couple of weeks. Now, the night before, so I've died to get up at like, I think 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning to catch my flight at 5 or 6 to get there by noon. It was the only flight I could get. Actually, it's not the only one. I actually scheduled it to be like at 10 in the morning. So I'd be there by 1 or 2 We'd have the afternoon and evening, and I could, not have to do this. Well, magically, that flight, they just rescheduled me and said the other flight doesn't exist. And if you want to fly, you've got to fly at this time. So, anyways, I'm having all these SRA memories as I'm going to bed. I had that awful memory of the ritual at the lake and mom was gang raped. After I remembered it, I cried a lot. And that was that night and realized. Then mom, as a spirit, came and let me know she was all right. She was strong, beautiful, radiant, and filled with purpose. She came and comforted me and let me know she was with God. And I wrote down here, I love you, Mama. April 3rd, 2020. Angie called me, my sister. I was in Oregon taking care. I didn't write this on April 3rd, but this happened on April 3rd of 2020. I was in Oregon taking care of Sally, who's my mother-in-law. Her back had gone out and she needed help for several weeks. Angie told me that Dad had died. I cried. Sally comforted me. After I calmed down, I took Dixie for a walk in the woods. I sensed that Dad was stalking me like a wolf its prey. I ignored it for quite some time. It was menacing. Finally, I told it to leave me alone forever and go back to hell. It did. And underneath here, I put Mom is an angel in heaven. And underneath that, I put Dad is in hell. So pretty happy about that. So this entry is March 5th of 24. I recall Angie and Mary also being woken up by Dad and taken to the basement. I was talking to Melissa and happened to say, they would come get me. And she said, they? I assumed it was Dad and Jolly, but no, it was Angie and Mary with Dad coming to get me. It was my turn. They would go back to bed. I would go with Dad downstairs. I also recall seeing Dad play Angie and Mary off each other while they had to pleasure him, meaning he had them, do what they did. He made them compete. Who was better at whatever sexual activity he wanted? Then I was brought in. They would go. Dad had, quote, special training with me. Their training was sexual and compliance. Mine was also to do with witchcraft. He was on the phone a lot with his mom, plus Grandma sent Jolly to train me too. Dad would go to the shotgunning of pot smoke into me, but it wasn't just about making me high. It was also about the transfer of or many demons from him into me. And yeah, this is when I still, back then, when I thought he had a demon in him and he was transferring it to me with this breath. I recall Corky was present a lot. Now, Corky, I've later discovered is one of my parts, but at the time I wrote this, Corky was, and it still may be accurate. I'm pretty sure that it is, but it's like a familial, meaning family, or familiar, meaning you're accustomed to a familiar spirit of my father's family, who I think passed down from however many generations down to him, and he was trying to pass them on to me. And then this is where I sketched Grandma and Grandpa's house to see if I could remember more stuff. And I just showed you that first floor. And then this next page here, I wrote down some things I looked up online. My grandma's full name, the day she was born, day she died, some addresses, where, she was in a hospice. My grandpa, same thing, born, died, where he died. And then I had found an address where they lived. And I put on here's a nice large house. There's no water there, but when I looked it up, it's a modern house. Excuse me. So I think what happened was they probably wiped all that old farmland and farmhouses out, and there's like subdivisions there now. I was trying to see if I could locate the house and I could get more memories and stuff, but it's gone. Here's the next entry. This is March 12th of 24. Now, this is, I think by now I had watched Emma's podcast, a few of her shows. And John Euler came on and was talking about dissociative identity disorder and the parts. And he had put that chart on there that shows, the conscious, the co-conscious, the subconscious, the repressed, the wounded kids. And he was talking about how, if you one of those kids at the very bottom of your subconscious level wants to get help and, you know, pops its head up, it like causes an earthquake motion. I was just transfixed with what he was talking about. I think I will definitely put a link to that in the description box, but I think I might pop up. Actually, I have it here. Sorry, I wasn't prepared yet again. So I don't really read this before I start. So let me go to parts, IFS, because I was able to get the chart, and here it is. Make this bigger. So a child part that wants to get help, which is the deepest level of your subconscious. I had that happen, and it caused a ripple effect up through to my conscious mind. And in doing so, that was my first part, called Blue. She was 3 weeks old. At the time I remembered it, I thought I was 3 months old. But by the time I talked to my counselor, I realized, no, she was 3 weeks old. And he said, well, that's your first split. I mean, we think it is, it was pretty darn early, 3 weeks old. But in remembering that so early on, it shook everything up, all these parts. And I had lots of parts come up, but that's I'll stop share now and finish with this. So I was watching his show, and he happened to mention that you should write down in your journal to say something like this: hello to all of you. If anyone wants to talk about anything, and I put ... please do. Well, right after that, someone wrote, fuck, fuck, fuck. That's all we want to do. That's all we do is fuck, fuck, fuck. And then another entry in tiny little print says, I'm tired. And then another entry after that said, there's a Jimmy and a John, Jimmy before John. I still don't know what that means. So next entry, March 15th of 24. At that black mass on the river, I was sent to be with my cousin John. Now, up until this point, I didn't know his name, and I later put that in because I happened to look up my dad's family tree, and I assumed it was my cousin. I've later learned that it wasn't an actual blood cousin. It was one of my grandfather's Masonic lieutenants, one of his, I don't think so. I think it was his grandson, but I was told to call this guy Uncle so and so. And so I thought that this kid was my cousin. And his name is Corbin. But in my journal, I wrote John because I was, it's an analytical overlay. I was trying to figure it out. So I was sent to be with my cousin Corbin, who I was mated to, supposed to marry someday. He and I would take over for Grandma and Grandpa as the heads of the coven and lodge. I was to be his sex slave and head witch. We were on our own at the edge of the ritual area. He was disgusted with me because I wasn't, quote, evil and seductive enough for him. I shrugged my shoulders at him, not knowing what to do or what he would do. He shoved me back and I fell onto my elbows in the sand. To my amazement, he spun on his heels and took off to rape someone else, which is what I assumed. But months later, just a couple weeks ago, I remembered, no, he didn't go off just to goof around and rape more people. He went and told on me. I noticed that no one saw. It flashed into my head to scoot over to the rocks and the bushes just a few yards to my right. I kept looking to see if anyone noticed. No one did. I made it to the bushes, scooting on the ground, and worked my way into them. I got scraped up. I made it to the boulder inside of them. I wrapped my black cape all over me so that no skin was showing and tried to melt into the rock. No one had seen. I could hide there all night, and I did. Now, here's what the part was telling me as I was writing this: quiet as a mouse. Don't breathe, cough, or sneeze. Wet yourself, but don't leave. Melt into that rock for hours. I watched the bloodlust, cannibalism, rapes, murders, and orgies. I was super alert and super vigilant all night, no tiredness. Back to the narrator. A lot of my journaling is like through a narrator or a communicator of some sort. And it's just once in a while the parts will come up and speak. Angie, Mary, and Dad were in robes and masks out there somewhere. Mom was tied down on the dupe mat placed by a fire. And I want to show you that. I found it. Melissa interviewed me and she put a clip from Rosemary's Baby up, and I was gobsmacked because this very thing is what I saw at this black mass. And Melissa had no idea. It just kind of happened organically. So I need to go back here again. Sketches. Hopefully I can find that. I had to go back through here and take them out of these files and label them. Oh, please be here. Oh, dang it. Sorry, give me just 1 minute. It's a horrible picture too, because I had to take a screenshot of a movie that was playing and it was very dark lighting, but oh, darn it. Sonic table. Oh, dang it. Well, I'll show it again sometime when I get them labeled and I can find them properly. Here's this little teeny little sketch where it's like the 4 points of a 5-pointed star. The tarp was shaped. When you lay the person on there, their head makes the 5th point of the pentagram. You can see that. That's what I call the dupe mat, because the people who were fooled and duped and gaslighted the wives and different people, that's where they were put. Mom was tied down on the dupe mat placed by a fire. I could see her and the people raping, taunting, and playing with her. I could see all of them, all of it, the whole mass. Now here's my part talking. Don't cry, quiet as a mouse. Don't move, wait, don't pee, hold it in. I could hear from time to time Angie, Mary, or Dad's voice in the distance, just a word or two. Once a threesome came too close to my hiding place. They had their orgy. No one saw me. Don't breathe. Don't move. Quiet as a mouse. Melt into the rock. I'm Rocky now. So I split them, and he called himself Rocky. Hours later, some men were looking and calling for me. Don't move. Quiet as a mouse. They threatened and did do things to Mom to flush me out. Don't move. Don't breathe. Quiet. Don't cry. I wanted them to stop, but I wouldn't move. I'm so guilty. I'm hurting Mom, but I didn't reveal myself. I saw my cousin, quote unquote, this Corbin person, who pushed me down. He was beaten and humiliated for losing me. They shouted and licked all night. Worried I escaped to town. What if I told someone? And I heard someone else say, no one would believe her. And I also recalled as well that they were discussing that they had their policemen on certain roads and posts and that they were totally covered. And so they weren't really too stressed out about it. Back to I said I wet myself but didn't move. By sunrise, most all of them were passed out or gone. Mom was catatonic all night. When no one looked, I ran out to her. It was dawn, the sun coming up. There were streaks of light. I was so tired. My legs were weak from crouching and hiding. I was cold from the rock. I dropped to my knees and shook her shoulders. She looked at me with blank eyes. I was grabbed from behind by Dad, Grandma, and Grandpa. I was slapped many times. Where was I? Why didn't I come when called? I would pay for this disobedience, they said. Quiet as a mouse. Quiet, quiet. I was pulled by my hair to the van to go back to the house. They carried mom into the van. And this is where I realized that there had to have been two of these black masses, because in one memory, we walked through the forest to get there and get back home. But in this memory, we drove in a van. So I think it was two different locations. Actually, I know it was. And I'm thinking one was on a lake and one was on a river that was large. They carried mom into the van. Angie and Mary were already there asleep in the van. We drove back to grandma's house. Mom was washed and put to bed. They all washed and slept, not me. And again, in the other memory, they took us into the river and we washed up before we ever left there. But in this memory, we went home dirty and washed up. And that's another, that was just two things that helped me realize it's two locations. Otherwise, this was all just kind of a big blur, and I thought it was one incident. So they all washed and slept, not me. Mom was told that day that her pain was from a very bad period and to rest. Actually, grandma told her this, gaslighting. Oh, Karen, your period just must be awful. Let me give you something to help you feel better. And they drugged her. They all giggled and whispered once she was passed out at how stupid she was. Mom slept most of that day. She was still drugged, just milder. I was tired all day that day. I was interrogated all day by all of them. Together they interrogated, and one-on-one they interrogated. Everybody would leave and leave one there, the good guy, bad guy, but they were all bad guys. I didn't get to eat. I've wet myself again. They called me disgusting. A pin was put in my wrist so I would tell. This is the same thing my father did when we were in the basement. I didn't. They were using that fact to reinforce not telling anything ever. So it was good to be quiet. Don't cry. Don't move. Quiet as a mouse. I wouldn't tell. I didn't tell. And I put here, Rocky was my best friend that day. He was tough as a rock. That's how I got through that interrogation, was Rocky. And pins, another part of me, the one that's tortured with pins. And I put on here, perhaps that's my love for rocks/crystals to this day. It hid me from the black mass that night. I saw bodies burned and skin melted off their bodies. I put melted off their bones onto the fire, but there's no way a fire could take it to the bone level like that. So I think I meant to say off their bodies. And their bodies were charred, they were cooked. It made my stomach upset. I taught myself not to smell. Now, this is when I was hiding in that rock. To breathe with my mouth. I saw people eating human flesh with relish and drinking blood out of chalices and skulls. And I was reread this a few days ago, and I thought, was it with the food relish, or are they eating it with gusto? And I thought both are possibilities. I do believe that there were condiments there. Anyway, some of the dupes were killed and butchered. Some, like mom, just tortured and raped. And I'm going to interject here. There was, of those 13 people, mom and one other woman were the wives of cult members. And so they were allowed to stay alive. They were just being tortured and, traumatized into obeying and, splitting them and making them amnesiac. There was blood everywhere. Don't smell it. I will vomit. Just hold it all in. Don't move. Don't breathe. Quiet as a mouse. Rocky can't be moved. Now here's another disjointed memory. Basement with Dad, I wrote. When I was smallest, he had my arms strapped down, palm up, and would jam a large pin in my right index finger and then train me to not remember anything. So I'm in a chair similar to this. And he's got me like this. And I'm a little girl, so my hands are about here. And so he's sticking pins, which I'm not sure if it was injections and I thought they were just big, but they were large pins. So that's still not clear to me yet, but he would stick pins in me. Or if both happened, but he tortured me with pins. Um, he would jam a large pin in my right index finger and then train me to not remember anything. As I got older and my arms were longer, because this went on for a while, so I'm not little as I'm growing, my hands are coming out to here. So instead of having them up like this, and he would stick the pin, and it's this finger in particular. Now I'm like this. So he started jamming pins into my wrist. There's bones in there. He was jamming pins in there. As I got older, my arms were longer, and so he had my arms strapped down and jammed a pin in my left wrist for training. My hands were now off the arm of the chair. Then later still, it was in my left thigh above the knee to train me. And I'll try to show this. Right there. I have a wart there to this day. And if I hadn't put compound W on it for months and months, it was like a quarter-inch bump. It was huge, but now it's flat. It was in my left thigh above my knee to train me. In all three of these places, I had a wart in adulthood. The ones on my finger and wrist disappeared. The one above my knee is still there. First on my finger, and it actually wasn't just in my 20s, it was as a teenager, adolescent. I had a wart right there, like an eighth quarter of an inch thing. And imagine having that right there. Every time you'd reach or touch or do something, it would get knocked and it would reinforce the training. And then after that, it suddenly one day just disappeared, gone. There's the tiniest little scar there. I think you can see it right there. Tiniest little scar. Then it came onto my wrist. Where is it? Is it that wrist? Yeah. I think it was right there. And you can see there's just the tiniest little scar. That one was there in my 20s and 30s. And right there in your wrist, imagine as you're working and doing things, I'd bang it. And when you bang a wart, it effing hurts a lot. So I was constantly getting reinforced throughout my life. The one above my knee is still there. I put first on my finger in my 20s, it moved to my wrist until my 30s, and it moved to my knee/thigh where it remains. I used wart remover on it for weeks on it, but only got half of it off. It was actually months that I did it. Dad had his Bible out and had either grandma or grandpa on the phone. I was trained away from the Bible to not believe in it. Corky would be inside of my dad too, so this spirit. I was trained to take pain and not to talk, to swallow the pain, no crying ever. They were disassociating me intentionally. And that's the end of that entry. And I think I'll end off for today. And these are a couple of sketches that I did at the same time period. So I want to find them and share them with you, but let me find it first. You don't have to look at all my file folders, which I don't care if y'all see them. So journals, sketches. This is Blue, my first part. That's me as a baby. We're in a cave, right? Got everybody's, in their black robes, whatever. There's my grandma, the head witch, my grandpa, and there's my dad. I don't know where mom is. This is late at night. I'm sure dad drugged her and snuck me out of the house, goes to this cave, gives me to grandma, and she puts me in this tub on the altar, on this tub full of blood. I don't know what kind of blood it was, if it was animal blood or human blood or what, but basically was holding my chest down, drowning me. And I'm fighting like an SOB to live. I'm 3 weeks old. I'm cold. I can't. I remember have my eyes were open and looking and seeing the world through this red. Imagine if you look through water, it's blurry. We'll make that blood. It was like that picture that Prince Charles had done. Kind of like that, but not. Anyway, so there's me gasping to breathe. Oh, yeah. And here's this huge demon because they're all hailing Ra, hail Satan, and doing their chants. And what I put here, oh, a baby was killed and drained of its blood into a tub. I was newborn, placed in it and under it until I almost drowned. I was purple, then raised up for the demon for baptism. And oh, there's the dead baby. Okay. And I colored it blue. The funny thing is, once I was almost dead, she lifted me up and out, and the blood's dripping off me and down. And one of her little helper ladies came up to help her. I don't know. They took me away, and they took this tub away and put a little chair there and sat me in the chair. And I sat and overwatched an orgy happen. And the whole time is this awful, terrible, demonic thing overwatching it all. And they're worshiping it. That's up these lines from them to him, just worshiping this satanic evil thing. And so anyway, her helper comes up and takes me and says, she's blue. And so that's the name of my part, Blue. Fabulous. I know. Anyhow, there's Blue. And it wasn't until months and months later that I remembered that I don't know if this stuff was taken away or they moved me to a different place, but they put me on a little chair. I think they had the tiniest little blanket wrapped around me, but I was just shivering and freezing. I'm 3 weeks old, sitting up, looking at this evil insanity going on around me. It was crazy. So I'll stop share. I need to get my SHIT together with these pictures and stuff. So that's the sketches that I did at that time. It was one of the first. And how this sketch came, well, I remember sitting down eating lunch and the image came to mind. And I thought, well, there, grab my paper and pencils, a box of colored pencils, and guess I'm eating lunch, sketching this thing, kind of gobsmacked at the story that went with it. So anyhow, that's it for today. Again, I'm reminded of my TED Talk this morning. I was really feeling horrible. I was doubled up, running to the bathroom. And I wasn't, I had a little bowel movement, but not a lot. I just kept thinking that I should, or I was hoping to, whatever, but it was in bad shape. But now I would say what was 120% pain now is maybe like 10 or 15%. So I feel a lot better. And the thing that I'm most appreciative of is my mindset changed. I'm not in despair. I'm not feeling sorry for myself. I'm not, being a bum on a chair watching TV all day. So highly recommend the TED Talks. So anyway, I'll let you go. Let's say a prayer to God bless all of you. Dear Jesus, please watch over and protect all the victims on the planet, all the victims of any trauma, of any perpetrator, of any evil. Please watch over, protect them, surround their homes, their possessions with your angels of protection and your love. Bless them, give them strength, courage, wisdom, and strengthen their bodies and their minds to be able to move through their personal journeys. Thank you, Jesus. Amen. So, again, God bless you all. I love you. Thanks for coming on my journey. Have a great day.